Hi, it's December the 15th, and this is your daily devotion. So last week we read where Gabriel visited Zechariah, and Zechariah was doubtful of how Gabriel could possibly suggest that Elizabeth would have a child, and his doubt led him to be shut up for a while. Today we're going to read what happened when Zechariah was finally able to speak. Zechariah remained mute throughout the pregnancy until the child was born. And when the child was born and was about to be dedicated and they were going to give him a name, Elizabeth said, "It's John." And everybody was saying, "No, it can't be John. Nobody in your family is named John." And then Zechariah wrote down on a piece of paper, "It is John." And then his mouth was opened and he was able to speak. And when he did speak, his words came out in praise. And so I would encourage you to read his entire hymn of praise. We hear a lot about Mary's Magnificat, her wonderful song of praise. But Zechariah also gives a pretty awesome song of praise in Luke 1, 67 through 79. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read one little section of this poem that is so full of meaning and imagery. And that is Luke 1, 78 and 79. By the tender mercy of our God, the dawn from on high will break upon us to give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet into the way of peace. Wow, what beautiful verses. What a beautiful promise. And a promise that has begun to be fulfilled in Jesus. A light to guide our feet into the way of peace. Clearly, this promise is not fulfilled in all completeness. Once when I taught a lesson regarding these promises at Christmas, I titled it "A Broken Hallelujah," because we give praise for what is and for what is coming, but also, as John pointed out in a sermon last week, what is not yet. It's not yet fully here, and we long for that peace. Peace in our hearts, peace in our midst, peace on earth, peace with God, the promise of light and life and peace that is coming, that is to come, but is not yet. It's ironic that this is the time of year when we celebrate peace on earth, goodwill to men. This is the time when it is so hard to receive the gift of God's peace because, of the hustle and bustle. Maybe we don't have so much of the hustle and bustle this year, but what we do have every year is that buildup of stress that seems to happen through the year, and that sort of reflecting back on maybe regrets or sadness or grief and wonder, where are we? Where are we going? And if that is a stress for other years, for this year, that stress has certainly been incredible. And so we truly long for the light of Christ. We yearn for peace. This has made me think of a Christmas carol, since we are doing the series on Christmas carols, which I'm really liking, that was actually written by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, the great poet of the 19th century. He wrote the carol that I'm going to read in just a moment during the Civil War on Christmas Day. He wrote it while he was still grieving the death of his wife, who had died in a tragic house fire, domestic fire. It was a total accident. His wife was killed and he was permanently scarred. His face was scarred. His other grief was that his son had gone off to be a part of this terrible war, and Longfellow did not approve of that. The son ran off and enlisted, and on the very near to the time that he wrote this, he had learned that his son had been wounded in battle. I'm going to read the entire poem, and there's parts that you'll notice that we don't sing. The poem was written and then later put to music. But before I read it, I want you to notice in the poem the change in mood. It is said by those who knew Longfellow that he described the writing, that he was sat down to write in his despair. And as he was writing, he heard the church bells ringing out the good news of Christmas, and his demeanor began to change, so that what had begun as a lament made a turn, and the poem ended with a much more hopeful conclusion. Much like the Psalms, you know, there's something about just crying out to God with our pain and our truth and our needs that opens a window for that dawn from on high to begin to stream in and to light our way and to help us see the light at the end of the tunnel. Maybe we are seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. I hope so. So, in this Advent time of waiting, we, like Mary and like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and Zechariah, we're all looking for the hopeful conclusion, the dawn from on high. Here are the original words of Longfellow's poem that became the song, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play, and wild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how, as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth the cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the heartstones of a continent and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair, I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to man. Christ has come. Christ is coming, bringing the dawn from on high, to give light to those who sit in darkness and in the shadow of death, to guide our feet in the way of peace. May the peace of Christ be with you.